Hello folks, welcome to my next update on the Epstein Prince Andrew saga. It's been interesting the last couple of days. We've seen a continuation of the same theme, a continuation of pinning all the blame on Andrew and a continuation of painting Epstein as the ringleader of this whole operation. And, you know, we've already identified that this is not the case. And if you haven't seen the last two videos that I did on this particular topic, you'll find a link below to part 1 and part 2 of this series. This is part 3. This will probably be the last one that I do for a little while until some more information comes to hand. You won't be getting a radio show this week either, folks. Sorry for those people out there that were expecting one. I've just got too much on. And you won't be getting one next week either because I'm actually speaking next week at an event on the Gold Coast here at Varsity Lakes. You'll also find a link to that below if you'd like to come along. But to get onto the topic, you know, what we've seen is more of the same spin to paint Epstein as the ringleader and to have this sort of secret dealing going on. There's a big effort now to paint Andrew as a victim who was entrapped into this through blackmail. There was a book that came out recently. It was just released the other day, like right on cue, and it's called Epstein, Dead Men Tell No Tales by a man called Dylan Howard. And it talks about a guy called Ben Menash, who claims he is an ex-Mossad operative, claims he was Robert Maxwell's handler for a certain time. And he's kind of put a lot of what I would believe to be true information in there. Probably most of what is written in the book is true, but I would suggest that he just hasn't ever referenced the bigger picture. I doubt that we'll find anywhere in the book any references to the mega group and what lies beyond that, for example. In the book, he confirmed some of the things that I've said, that Epstein and Maxwell knew each other well before this operation, you know, came to light, well before anything that we're being told. He's claiming that Epstein knew Robert Maxwell before he died, and it was him who got him into the Mossad, and Ghislaine Maxwell came in later. This may well be the case, who knows. But it does very much reveal the Mossad connections. But what he's saying in the book, in this expose that he's done, is basically that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffery Epstein were blackmailing politicians to gather information. They were spies, and they were selling information to various governments. He's claiming they're Israeli spies, but they're selling information to various governments at all. There's a lot of people saying, well, they were double agents and triple agents, and they're selling information to everybody. But really, as we've already seen, it goes a lot deeper than this, folks. And to understand how it works, these brownstone operations, as I said last week, you'll find these are the people that are running all the rat lines and all of that sort of stuff. But even that is secondary to what's really going on here. You know, as I've said many times for many years, the world is run by a criminal cabal, a criminal elite, and they all work together. And the main thing that holds this group together is pedophilia. The world is run by pedophiles, folks, a worldwide group of pedophiles. And a lot of the reason for a place like Epstein's house to exist, these bordellos to exist where they can go and entrap all these people, is in case anyone finds out what's really going on. You know, there's been so many things that have implicated the royal family over the years. For example, you know, the Jimmy Savile affair, the fact that Prince Charles had such close ties to Jimmy Savile. I mean, Jimmy Savile was a DJ, folks. He was a DJ, television personality, hung around with kids. What was he doing to be such good friends with Prince Charles? He hung around the palace all the time. It's like he had a revolving door, you know, a free ticket to go to the palace whenever he wanted. You know, they even used him as a foreign envoy for some sort of situations, some diplomatic situations. I believe someone in the royal family even used him as a marriage counsellor. Could have been Charles. Used him as a marriage counsellor at one stage. I mean, why would these people be hanging around with this DJ? And he's pretty crass and coarse, you know. When you look at him, he had the long hair and the loud clothes, and have a look at any of his TV shows, he was pretty crass. This isn't the sort of company you would think the royals would be hanging around with. You know, there's a deeper reason for all this, folks. You look into the royal family, you'll find that there's been missing children involved with these people for years. There was a time in Canada in 1964. A lot of people have sent me information on this, where it's reported to be either 10 or 14 children went missing at a picnic that the Queen was attending. These sorts of things, you know. Look into the stories of Edward Heath, what he used to do. He used to basically bring kids out of boys' homes and take them out on boats and rape them and torture them and throw them overboard on the boats. I mean, there's so much evidence to support this. Lord Mountbatten, the lot of them, they're all involved in this, ladies and gentlemen. That's the problem. And that's what a lot of this is designed to cover up. You know, I've often said that we're living in a people farm. And people have said, well, if it's a people farm, what are they farming? You know, well, they're farming our energy, and they're also farming children. You know, it's a big sex fest for these people, you know, satanic ritual abuse. And a lot of it is quite horrific, and children are brought up into this reality, and they're programmed into this reality from birth. I mean, satanic ritual abuse, satanic ritual sexual abuse, it's a very, very dark area that a lot of people don't want to get into, but it's real. It's very, very real. You know, you'll find a lot of these children are tortured by their parents, and then when they have children, they're taught by their parents how to torture their own children. You know, and it just goes on and on and on. And there's a lot of people who've been trying to blow the whistle on this, but they just get called crazy by society. They get called crazy by a lot of the people out here in the so-called truth movement as well. You know, what they do to a lot of these girls is that they will torture them profusely, you know, horrify them, bring them to absolute periods of extreme pain and extreme horror. And then they will stimulate them into an orgasm while they're a child. So they train them to believe that with orgasm comes pain, with pain comes orgasm. It mixes the whole two up together. You look at how the pornography that the society is pushed on society has become more and more violent over the years. Pornography today is basically teaching men how to abuse women, how to remove all love from the equation and just, you know, put this woman through hell. When you look at what we're hearing from the people who were entrapped into Epstein's orbit, you know, when Ghislaine Maxwell used to participate in these rituals and these sexual operations, she used to push the girls to their limit and make sure they went through a lot of pain. You know, this is all part and parcel to the same thing, folks, and this is what they don't want you to look at. They don't want you to pull back the veil and see how deep this really goes and what is really going on behind this. But if you were ever someone in the system who really became aware of what was going on and how deep this goes, all they had to do was take you back to Epstein's place and entrap you, you know. And if you weren't into being entrapped, I'm sure they could probably use something like scopolamine or whatever, simply get you into that compromising position and video you there while a child's being raped or murdered in front of you. You know, there's all sorts of ways to do this, but this goes very, very deep, this rabbit hole, and they're really attempting to spin it and to make Prince Andrew the fall guy. And as I said on the last report that I gave on this, or it may have been the first report, you know, when a lot of people are questioning why the British government hasn't ever launched an investigation into Ghislaine Maxwell, why they're leaving it to the Americans to do it, why they've never sought to prosecute Prince Andrew, because no one's above the law, the royal family shouldn't be above the law and all this sort of stuff. And as I pointed out in the first episode or the first report I did on this, it's because they swore an oath to the Queen when they took office, when they became a police officer, when they became a lawyer, when they became a judge, when they became anything to do with the government or legal system in Great Britain. What they do is they swear allegiance to Her Majesty the Queen, not to the British people, but to Her Majesty the Queen. So basically you've got police in the country who may want to do the right thing, but they're bound by their oath. And if you believe in yourself and your word is worth anything, then your oath is your oath. And if you've taken an oath to serve Her Majesty the Queen, how can you then launch an investigation which will ultimately lead back to the Queen's family? You can't, because you're duty bound not to by your oath. That's the problem. But what people don't understand, and if there's any British police officers who happen to be watching this, I mean, I don't know whether there would be, but if there is any British police officers that happen to be watching this, there is an interesting thing that's happened. I think it was in 2009 or 2010, there was a certain decree that was adopted by the Queen and applied to the Anglican Church, or the Church of, whatever it is, the Church of England. I think it's the same thing. I'm not sure. I don't do religion. So, but it was applied to the British religious system, and it's a decree that was spoken into or written into being in the Catholic system back, I think, in 1991. It was in response to the enormous reports of child abuse that they were getting in the Catholic Church, and it's a decree called Crimen Solicitationis. Crimen Solicitationis, and what it does basically is it provides a written decree which decrees that you must cover up child abuse within the church. It basically says all investigations must be internal, no one's able to speak to anybody about it, and if you do, you will be punished, including the victims of child abuse. If you speak about this to anybody, you will be punished. It's that decree, and in, I think, 2009 or 2010, Queen Elizabeth actually adopted that decree and applied it to the religions in England, to the Anglican Church, etc. Now, if you look at it, folks, the Queen's coronation oath, I mean, we know that she doesn't, uphold the will of the people and look after the people anyway, but the Queen's coronation oath is part of that oath that says she must protect her subjects. And by adopting Crimen Solicitationis as part of the decree for the Catholic Church, the Queen has adopted a decree which thereby creates a written decree which protects pedophiles and prevents investigation into child abuse within the church. And by doing so, she isn't protecting her people anymore. She's now got a written decree which says, I will no longer protect the people from child abuse within the church. So she is therefore now in breach of her coronation oath. So any police officer out there who feels he is bound by his oath to the Queen, well, now that the Queen has broken her coronation oath and must really be forced to abdicate by law, under British law, how valid is your oath to the Queen? Think about that one, folks, because that's true. She's broken her oath. She's broken her coronation oath, and she's allowing this to happen. And you can see why. And so much of this is theatrics, folks. It really is, They really want us looking in the wrong direction, and the royal family is really trying to find a way out of this mess. But You've got to understand that this is how the world is run. People who have faith in the political system, there's no faith to be had in any political system in any country, because if the people are in office, if they're in any position of power, they are compromised. I don't care what you say about Donald Trump. Look at the people he's involved with. Look at the people that he's involved with in Israel. Look at his wife Melania was involved in Victoria's Secret. What's Victoria's Secret involved in? It all goes back to Epstein. Go and have a look at the transgender agenda, folks, and have another closer look at Victoria's Secret and ask yourself what Victoria's Secret really is. There's a lot going on here that people simply don't want to look at, but things are getting serious now. And because of this incredible bungle of Andrew giving this interview, even if it was staged for him to bungle so it would bring down the royal family, even if that's about to happen, well, there's still a bigger picture to the whole thing, because the royal family doesn't control this whole thing. It isn't the Jews controlling the whole thing. It doesn't matter what you look at. You can look at the Jews, you can look at the royal family, you can look at the Jesuits, you can look at the Freemasons, you can look at the Rosicrucians, you can look at any of these societies. It doesn't matter who you're talking about. The order of this, the order of that, just the order, whatever, skull and bones. It's all the same thing, all working towards the same agenda. And the main thing that bonds all of these people together is ritual child abuse. And it's going on a massive scale right across this earth. And that's what is being exposed in this. And there's so much spin coming out to attempt to shift attention. That's what this book, Dead Men Tell No Tales, is. I mean, perhaps it's just the way he's seen it. But, he's an ex-Mossad agent. How much is anyone ever an ex-Mossad agent? That's kind of like saying that you're ex-CIA to me. As far as I'm concerned, there is no such thing as ex-CIA. And when I see some of the disinformation that was put out earlier this year regarding the Christchurch shooting by people who claim they are ex-CIA, well, no, I don't really trust anybody who says they are ex-any alphabet agency. I think once you join one of these agencies, the only way you leave it is in a body bag. So, I think we need to look a little bit deeper at this, folks. This will be the last report that I'm going to give you on this for a little while, but I think it's very, very important to look deeper at what's going on here. And I think it's important for the people of England to understand what crimen solicitationis actually means for them and their people. How it basically is a decree to cover up child abuse. This has been decreed by the Queen. And all you've got to do is search for that. You'll find what that decree is. I'll try to find something and I'll put a link in the... Actually, I'll put a link to a video below. There's a video called The Ninth Circle. I'll put a link to that below. There's a fair bit of disturbing information in there, but I think you need to see it. I'll put a link to all the relevant stuff below. Just go and check it out. As I said, I'm not going to be giving you a radio show this week, and I'm not going to be recording a radio show next week as well, because I have a conference to attend or a presentation to give. So I haven't figured out what it'll be yet, folks. I kind of wing these things. But I think it's going to be a good day. I've got a lot of stuff I want to share, so it'll just depend where it goes. You'll find a link to that below as well. I will bring you some more radio shows. I mentioned earlier that I may take some time off the radio, even a year off the radio, so I can complete some films. I think this is a good idea for me to do this, I really do. But I'm still going to bring you a few more shows yet. I want to bring you some stuff on history. There's a bit of stuff that I want to share, and I'll probably be bringing you another clip like this either tomorrow or the next day, maybe even a few of them this week, because I've got a lot of other stuff that I want to share as well, quite important stuff that's happening here and in the world. So you can look forward to that anyway, and sorry for no radio show this week, but I hope you do go and really look at how deep this whole Epstein royal thing goes, because it's far, far deeper than Epstein and blackmailing politicians for secrets and running teenage girls. Like I said, this is for people who find out what's really going on in the world as well, because you've got to compromise these people. And they're all involved. Another interesting thing you'll find out from that video below, they mention it in that video that's linked below about the 9 circles. If you think pedophilia isn't rampant within the system, within the church, in 2009, the age of consent up till 2009 in the Vatican, in Vatican City, was 12 years old. Think about that. That's the age of consent. And due to public outcry in 2009, they raised the age of consent to 14 in Vatican City. Vatican City is its own city. The only people who live in Vatican City is 800 clergymen. Clergymen, we are said, are celibate. They don't have sex. So why do they even need an age of consent in Vatican City? Why was it 12 years old? And why did they raise it to 14 due to public outcry? Why is there even an age of consent in Vatican City? If you support the church and you support the Catholic Church, I don't know, folks, there's something severely wrong with this institution. But anyway, I'll get back to you. Don't forget, I'm speaking at Varsity Lakes on December the 14th. If you're on the Gold Coast, that's next weekend. I'll look forward to seeing you there if you can come along, and I'll bring you another clip similar to this as soon as I'm able. In Lakesh.